Terry, I noticed the mind complains and judges a lot,
No,
but it's not me judging.
that's just the mind. Yep. Yep. Yep.
I just see whatever it's saying, judgment, complaint, irritation, all just thought.
Yeah.
And just don't buy it. Well, there's no one to buy it, but it's just
it's recognizing that is just happening.
Yeah.
Like if you were the judger, if it was you that was doing the judging, I would simply just say to you, stop it. Now, could you stop it? Have you ever been able to stop it?
Spontaneous.
Yeah. The mind's got to be witnessed as just something that is just occurring. It's not you. You're not the thinker of any of those thoughts. And you can...
It's still quite active though at times. I would have thought it die down a bit more at some point.
What keeps it active?
Attention. Or thinking it should die down.
That'll really keep it active.
Yeah.
It's really, really important to see. It's like you're just the pure witnessing of what occurs there. Can't alter it, can't change it, you're not doing it, it's just happening. Yeah. It's a passive witnessing. Imagine looking up at the sky and there's clouds up in the sky. Yeah. And you believe that you're responsible for which direction the clouds are going to go in or what shape they're going to form. Are they going to be big and dark or grey and light or wispy or...
No.
What sort of a life would it be if you believed you were responsible for the clouds? And what they're doing? You truly believed that. Occasionally you'd have a win. Occasionally you go, oh, I want them to be moving south. Oh, good, they're moving south.
It's interesting how venomous they can, some of the content. I mean, it's not to go into an analysis of the content, but it's like, it's surprising how venomous and dark and that some of those thoughts are.
Well, they're dualistic. What would be the opposite to that?
The opposite of?
Venomous and dark.
Joyful and loving and accepting.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what arises, is it not?
Sometimes. Yeah.
That's just the nature of the mind. That's the duality. Mind. Yeah. Just, or thoughts. Yeah. And they'll swing anywhere, between, oh, I love you, to I hate your guts, and then somewhere in between, or anywhere in between. It just keeps pinging backwards and forwards between those 2 points. With any thought, if you have a good look at any thought, you'll see it has an opposite.
Mm.
And they're just happening.
I've seen that more now. I think in the past it was like would have had all these thoughts and judgments, and then more thoughts would kick in. Oh, shouldn't be having those thoughts because that means they're not, shouldn't be like. Whereas now there's that analysis has dropped. It's just the thoughts and just they are what they are. There's no judgment around they shouldn't be happening or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the thoughts around thoughts, or the judgment thoughts around thoughts, they're just happening too.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with you that's witnessing it all happening.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with you.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's seen pretty clearly now.
Yeah. And you see it all around you. I mean, you only have to look around you. What's not happening? What's not just happening? What? What? I can look into the my picture here, yeah, and I can see a guitar in the background. Yeah? That guitar is just happening.
Mm.
Yeah. Light coming from a light bulb is just happening. Food digesting in your stomach is just happening. Blinking with the eyes is just happening. Hair's growing, that's just happening. Yeah. Clouds are moving around in the sky, that's just happening.
So the thoughts are all just in the same bucket.
Everything's, yes, they're just happening too.
Mm.
It's happening. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, especially thoughts, like that's where you've been looking for ages, right? If you can't see thoughts are just happening by now, you need to go off and, I'm not saying this to you, Adrian, but you need to go off and, I don't know, go and do yoga or something. This is not for you.
Mm.
And there's a seat of consciousness, or an eye of consciousness, that it's like the eye of the storm almost, like where nothing is happening. It's just witnessing. If you want to call that a happening, all right. If you want. Just pure witnessing of everything happening. A feeling will arise in the body. Oh, that just happened. I'm trying to point out all the things that you're not responsible for. All the stuff that's just happening. You're responsible for blinking. Oh, that just happens. Digesting the food in your stomach. No, that just happens. Growing your hair. That just happens. Thoughts that float through. That just happens. What are you actually doing? If you're a doer, what are you actually doing? Everything else that you can witness is just happening. And what are you doing? If there's a you there. even the seeming me. That's just happening. The me just arises as thoughts. That's all. That's all. And that's just happening. If we could stop that, we would. Seems to be the root of all our problems. What goes on in here? Or wherever that is.
Feels like it can drift though a little bit of the, like it's fairly established, but then it can, if it's not nurtured and maintained, it can drift.
Yeah, and even that, the nurturing or the maintaining or the consolidating, yeah, that just happens too. Yeah.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're going to have to introduce a doer that now I need to nurture this, and right back to where you started again. Yeah.
But it's consciousness that wants to nurture it.
Yeah. Okay. We can call it that. Yep. This whole process of waking has nothing to do with the individual.
No.
Absolute zero to do with the individual. If anything, the individual gets dragged kicking and screaming to this point. When there's an opening, if you want to call it that, yeah, you will sometimes hear me say, "Great, now stay there, stay home, consolidate in that. Don't move from that. Just be fully attentive to this, just now." In the pure presence, in this pure nowness, this absolute pure nowness, thought stops. If now is always now, there can't be any duality in it. There's no room for dual to arise in the immediacy of now.
Mm.
It can't arise.
Mm. It can't grasp it at all, can it? Can't take hold at all.
No, yeah. But I mean, the mind or the person is not going to stumble upon the now or its true nature, or the pure presence. This pure presence, this nowness, is singular. Time doesn't arise here. That's why it's always now. Time doesn't exist here. It's always now. How can time arise if it's always now? What happens to time? And all thoughts, are based on the concept of time. They function the whole thing arises in imagination. Me, time, here, there, this, that, up, down, left, right, love, hate, blah, 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 blah. All of that arises in the mind. It's all imagined. Time, imagined. Male, female, imagined. See, in the absence of all thought, there's no distinction. All then just is arising and happening. All. And there's no separation anywhere. In the immediacy of now. This is where the aliveness is, in the immediacy of now. The beingness, the awareness, the consciousness. In the immediacy of now. There's no such thing as before or after or later or yesterday or tomorrow. There's no such thing. In the non-seeing or the non-awareness of the immediacy of now, in the non-awareness of that, we slip from this, the immediacy of now, into the mind. As soon as that happens, we become unconscious. That's why it's referred to as a dream. When you put your head on a pillow at night to go to sleep, put your head on the pillow. First thing that starts to happen when you put your head on the pillow is you start to become unconscious, or no longer conscious of being conscious. So who goes to sleep? Me or consciousness? Who wakes up? Me or consciousness? Put your head on the pillow at night, close your eyes, just gradually, you start to become unconscious, deeper, more unconscious. And then at some point around there, the dream kicks in. And an imagined world is created in the dream. Keeping in mind your body's laying flat on the bed. An imagined world kicks in. That can only happen when one is not conscious of being conscious. And wake up from the dream. Oh, I woke up. I woke up. But me woke up. Consciousness stirs. And the eyes open. And then there's no attention or awareness at all given to consciousness. What happens when we wake up, is awareness and attention is given to the now pseudo me in the waking dream. And in that, we're not conscious. The pseudo character will say, yes, I am. I'm conscious. Like the dream character in the dream when you're asleep at night. Does it experience consciousness? Can we say it's conscious?
I think the key for me is to keep being conscious of consciousness, but conscious of consciousness.
Yeah.
And sitting as that.
Yeah. Without consciousness, what happens?
Not much.
Dream will happen. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But then as you go deeper into that unconscious state, even the dream stops. And then we say we're in deep sleep. We don't recall anything. We don't know anything. We don't remember anything, nothing. Are we doing that? Is, little old Cherry or Adrian choosing to now fall into deep sleep? Okay, I've now had a dream. That was cool. Now I've checked out of the real world. I checked into a dream for a little bit. Now I'm going to check out of the dream and I'm just going to dive into the nothingness. Absolutely. I'm going to go completely unconscious. Okay, here we go. And then nothing. And in that nothingness state, where there's nothing, there's a Terry or an Adrian arise in that nothing. Say, oh, it's time not to be nothing anymore. It's time not to be experiencing nothing now. I'm going to go back into the dream. Now I'm going to have a dream. Oh, yeah, and this dream is all happening. Must be getting close to time to wake up to go to work. Isn't that bullshit dialogue going on? No, none of it. Must be getting close to. So I guess I better wake up from the dream now. Oh, here I am. I've opened my eyes. Now me is awake. Come on, man. It's absurd. When you look at it, what actually happens, yeah? Yeah.
No one doing any of that.
No. Just happening. The more mind-centered we are, the less conscious we are. It's really that simple. That's why I keep saying, you guys have heard me say it 1,000 times. Are you conscious right now? Everybody goes, yeah. You're always conscious right now. Yeah? So there's a process that we go through to start to see and come to understand that this, supposedly waking state where me exists, then along with all the stuff that goes on in the mind, all of that is a dream. And there's a process that we seem to go through to recognize that, to see that. When you go to sleep at night, you put your head on the pillow and you go to sleep. The dream just happens, does it not? Stuff appears in the dream and a seeming you appears in the dream. And is there any will in there anywhere? Is there any self-will in there, in that dream? You have no idea what's going to pop up next. None in the dream. The dream's just happening, is it not? Now, what's the difference between that and this state that we're claiming we're awake in? And the mind is just doing its own thing as well. A dream appears in the mind throughout the course of the day. There's all sorts of stuff that's going on in there. And most people, they don't realize it, and most people are then living in the daydream. They're taking what's going on in here to be life, to be reality. And all of that that's just arising in the mind, that too is just happening. Do you have any will over any of that? Anything that arises in the mind, have any will over that? Can we stop it? Just stop it dead in its tracks. That's it. No more thoughts. I'm having a break. And then experience that. No more thoughts. That too is just happening. Now, here's the key. This seeming personal me is arising in the daydream. Like the seeming personal me arises in the sleeping dream. And neither of them do you have any control over. They're just happening. If I stepped into your sleeping dream and walked up to your dream character in that sleeping dream and tried to convince the character in the sleeping dream that this here that you're experiencing is not reality, there's a place that you can go to that you wake up from all of this. None of this is real. You're not real. The things that you see around you aren't real. None of this is real. What do you think the dream character in the dream would say to me? At best, it might say, oh, really? Great. How can I get to that other place? And then I say to the dream character, sorry, you can't. You can't. You can't get there. Yet all this that's going on here, none of it's real. Is the dream character in the dream when you're asleep at night on your bed, that dreamed character, Is it experiencing anything?
No.
Yeah. Is anything actually, in reality, really happening in that dream?
No.
Try telling the dream character that.
Mm. Doesn't like it.
The dream character is convinced that it experiences fear and the full gamut of emotions. The dream character in the dream when you're asleep, I'm talking about. Yeah? That dream character is convinced that it experiences the full gamut of emotions.
Which is the same as the waking dream.
Yeah. When do you know? Everything that was going on in the sleeping dream. When do you know? It didn't happen.
When you wake up.
Now, what needs to be seen here, awakening can and does happen. No ifs or buts about that. What we've got to try and get past is this idea that it's me that's going to wake up. It'd be like the dream character in the dream when you're asleep, saying, I'm going to wake up from this dream. The dream character. I'm going to wake up from this dream. What happens to the dream character when waking does happen? It's seen to be a dream, it just disappears. So the dream character can't wake up. The seeming person can't wake up. When you put your head on the pillow at night to go to sleep, when you do that, is it you that's now saying, okay, head's on the pillow, now less conscious, less conscious, less conscious, less conscious, less conscious. Oh, dream character, dream character, dream character. Oh, you doing any of that? Is anyone doing any of that?
So Terry, is the mind pretty much functioning the same as when you're asleep and when you're awake? It's going off the same
Dualistic, yep.
It's just the same functioning.
Dualistic.
It's literally it's the perfect analogy, isn't it?
It's the perfect analogy. The absolute perfect. The sleeping dream and the daydream. Waking dream, sometimes referred to. It's perfect. That's why I keep using it. What is it? What is it? When we put our head on the pillow at night to go to sleep, what is it that activates, if that's the right word, consciousness to slowly to go into abeyance? What the hell's doing that? Me wants an answer to everything. Answer that one. Yet, it just happens. Yeah. And until we actually look at this sort of stuff and talk about it, before we do that, we're convinced it's me that goes to sleep. Me. You can test that. Try staying awake. If you're the one that's instigating the sleep and becoming unconscious, which then activates the dream. Yeah. So, just like in the sleeping dream, yeah, the more active and the more me-centered we seem to be, this character, me, everything's going on, the more active all of that is and the deeper we are in that, the more unconscious we are. The only way that comes into being is by not noticing this. Right here where you are, conscious, awake, here, here. Yeah. And then the pseudo me goes looking for this. What? And it wonders why it can't find it. You don't understand, Terry. I've been on this non-dual path for 30 years. I go, I fully understand. I get it. You don't understand. I've got to point it all out. Yeah. So the process is coming to see what you're not. Yeah. Which involves, a few things. Yeah. Do I have will? Do I really have will? Sure, I do. Like, intellectually, I kind of get that I don't have free will, but the truth is, sure I do somewhere. Must have a little bit. That's what goes on for most of us. It does. And then that's got to be challenged. Am I the doer? That's got to be looked at. Am I the thinker of these thoughts? Am I doing this? Of course I am. Of course I am. I mean, who else would be responsible for the thoughts that only I am aware of, if not me? Okay. Stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. Just stop it.
Who was saying the other week that it feels like that thoughts don't actually arise within this body, if you like, or they arise from outside of the body or something like that? Was I mistaken with that?
No, there's a few people that have said that. Thoughts don't arise here.
Where do they arise?
Don't know, but not here. Here would be a location. I mean, you'll sometimes see me say, I'll refer to the head, yeah, because I know that's where most people believe their thinking happens. As there's it's like It's like a separating out from thoughts. The more that happens in your experience, then you start to, it's like you start to become aware of the thoughts kind of happening out here somewhere. Because there's a gap that gets created. There's a Some people say, oh, the thoughts arise in the brain. I've never heard of one neurosurgeon say that when they've opened up somebody's scalp, that they experienced all these thoughts rushing out of the brain. Oh, shit. I can have a, occasionally, so occasional, but sometimes I'll hear a thought. I'll hear it. And it's literally as though it's 200 meters behind me, to my left. So far away. Whereas once that thought would have arose and I would have experienced it in here. Oh, it would have been so serious.